Hi gang, Rob here. Happy New Year. It is the morning of 2 January 2016 and I'm coming to you with the first video of the new year, and it's going to be one that looks back. I've seen several of the knife channels that I subscribe to do this sort of themed video for the last couple years, and I thought maybe it was time for me to do one. And what we're going to look back on today is my 5 most carried knives of 2015. And the reason you're looking at a still picture of this, the legendary Victorinox Cadet, simple, unassuming, and awesome, is because this one's not on the list. Why is it not on the list? Well, because I carry this so much, it's almost like an extension of my body, a fixture of my everyday carry system. It's not one that really rotates much. I pretty much just always have a Cadet with me, whether it be this one or my green one. Not my cobalt blue one that my buddy Lee from the UK sent me, because that one is kind of a safe queen. But the Cadet, no reason to even put this on the list, because it gets carried so much more than any other blade that I own that it's sort of in its own class. Yeah, believe it or not, that's true. So let's move on, shall we? And as we proceed, there's a theme you're going to notice. None of these knives are new. None of them. Now, some of them are new production for 2015, but none of them are new. And I think it sort of points to a kind of an off-the-rails condition of the modern production folding knife industry. These are some great companies that I patronize and have followed over the years and respect. You know, the Benchmade, Spyderco, Kershaw, Kai, ZT, Kershaw, Kai, ZT being one company. Cold Steel. You know, I understand that we need to continue to innovate as a knife manufacturer if we're going to stay competitive and make a profit and continue to exist. But I think the innovation in the modern folder industry over the last couple of years has just been cliche, boring, feature-laden knives that are creations of marketing departments and not good knives. You know, handles that aren't good, blades that are ground in funky ways to sell knives to people with, shall we say, immature tastes. I'm an old guy, you know, I kind of like blades that cut in classic shapes that work, and handles that fit the human hand, and methods of locking in deployment and closing that just work. So, you know, ridiculously strong detents, ball bearing flippers, and knives that close on your fingers because they're so smooth. That stuff doesn't really appeal to me. What appeals to me are just folding knives that work well. So my 2015 list is going to look pretty stodgy. I'll admit that. It just is. So let's kind of take a look. Let's get Mr. Cadet out of here. And first we're going to talk about what has sort of been my carry combination in general. Other than my Cadet, which is almost always with me, my combination usually consists of a modern folder clipped to my pocket and a traditional pocket knife in a slip in the bottom of my same left pocket. And what we're going to start with today, I did 3 moderns and 2 traditionals on this list of 5 most carried knives of 2015. We're going to start with the 2 traditionals. And number 2 in the list of traditionals is this. This is the 2015 produced, first time ever for the pattern, Great Eastern Cutlery number 38 Titty Cutlery version of the Grinling Whittler. This is, as you guys know, if you watch the channel and you've been paying attention to the traditional knife series, This is a good old-fashioned, state-of-the-art, split back whittler with 2 back springs running each running 1 secondary blade, and then converging around a wedge into what acts like 1 spring for the main blade. And it's got this gorgeous clip point, full flat ground satin finished blade with no etch. And then our secondary blades are a coping and pen blade, both rather small with hidden kicks. See how the kick on the secondary blade just sort of blends into the handle, unlike the kick on the main blade, which forms a choil. No half stop on the main blade. We do have half stops on the secondaries. This knife is such a work of art, such a complex pattern, and so well executed, and so great in hand, that although I am not really a multi-blade, meaning more than 2 guy, I just adore this knife. It's such a statement of quality. Got to do a little wipe itch here for you guys. For my favorite producer of traditional pocket knives, Great Eastern Cutlery. And I am such a huge fan of Gabon Ebony and the 3-blade split back whittler that this saw a lot of pocket time. I bought this to carry. I have another number 38, the American whittler, the special factory order version in the peach seed jig bone that is a safe queen. This is a carry knife. It gets used a lot and I love it. My number 1 most carried traditional pocket knife is this one. This is the single clip bladed version, 2015 production, of Mike Latham's special factory order, collectorknives.net, of the number 77 American or Yankee Barlow. I guess the official name is the Yankee Barlow. I call him the Bartham. That is a Barlow by Mike Latham. It is a little bigger than the number 15 Tom's Choice Barlow. It's just the right size knife for me to carry. And I own several of these. I own the original 2-blade with the improved Trapper blade set, the clip point and the Warncliffe. And then in the second run, I think I own this clip and a Gabon Ebony sheep's foot. And then in the spear point run, I own the is it the blood red saw cut bone, old red saw cut bone. This is an old tan. So I carried, I wouldn't say I carried this knife the most of all my traditionals, but I carry a 77 Barlow more than any other blade. Just love them. The quality is amazing. The bolsters are gorgeous with that NF stamp for Northfield. I just love how Mike does these. You know, he didn't call attention to himself on this special factory order. The thing that distinguishes it or identifies it is already a trademark of Great Eastern Cutlery, the Northfield Unexcelled line. I love how he does satin blades rather than polished and no etch. So if you're a person who uses your knives, you might get that satin finish scratched up a little bit. You just redo it yourself. Looks like brand new. Great knife, super strong, great in pocket, great in hand. Awesome. My number 1 most carried traditional, the 77 Barlow from Great Eastern Cutlery. Now let's move to the modern folder segment, which is probably why most of you are here. Number 3 on the list, and boy, you could knock me over with a feather if you would have told me this would be on my most carried list for 2015, because it's a model I never really liked. But here it is. Number 3, the Spyderco Endura 4, gray handle, full flat ground. What is this? Oh, it's a big smear on my blade. I can't have a big smear on my blade, guys. Endura 4, full flat ground, sprint run, in super blue steel. Man, it's still there. This was purchased by a viewer, customer, and friend who lives in the area of the Spyderco plant in Golden, Colorado. Texted me while he was in line at the annual factory outlet sale and asked me if I had any Spideys that I'd like him to pick up. Well, this is one of 2 that I got that day, and it was cheap. I think it was $50 because it's a factory second. Spyderco sells their factory seconds with an identification mark right at the top of the jimping on the thumb ramp. It almost looks like a big fat extra jimp. What I did to get rid of that, because I thought it was ugly, was I just rounded the hump, crowned that area of the spine a little bit to get rid of that, just because I didn't want it. And I think the defect, because I can't really find much wrong with the knife, I think the reason that this was called a factory second, and I'll try to get this to focus and illuminate properly for you, the grind in the face of the blade nearing the tip is just a little wonky. More by the spine than by the edge. Just looks a little funny. I think you were already looking at the bad side. This side seems fine. Would I not buy this knife because of it? I can't really tell. It's just the worst thing on the knife I could find. Other than that, it's perfect. It has 0 side-to-side play, 0 up and down play. The action is really great. In about any method for a lockback Spyderco, this is one of the best I've ever had in my hand. The super blue steel is, it's not the best EDC steel I've ever seen, but it's really easy to sharpen and more than adequate at holding an edge. Certainly better than VG10 or OS 8. Probably a little better than like the Sandvik 13C26 and 14C28N steels. It's a knife that takes a really keen edge. I guess I would, if I had to compare it to another steel, it would be that Sandvik stuff, just a little better performing, it seems like. It is laminated with, I think, what are these, 420J1 external layers. You can see the line of demarcation if you look closely right above my thumb. And here's the reason that I carry this knife so much. I've always loved the Endura handle. It just doesn't seem to care where the hand is. It's always very comfortable. The jimping is purposeful. The thumb ramp is good. It's a knife that's excellent in all grips. And with its nearly 4-inch blade, it just gives you so much cutting capability. However, in its original form, the Endura 4 with that saber ground VG10 blade, to me it was like it was a blade that was the worst of all worlds. It wasn't a tactical knife because it's not a super strong lock. It's a conventional kind of small toothed mid-lock, back lock. Not a strong knife that I would have called a tactical blade, but the flats extended from the spine all the way down to the bottom of the spidey hole, and then you had this very steep, abrupt run of flat grind to the edge. So it wasn't a good slicer, it wasn't a good cutter, and even though it was sort of a strongly constructed blade with these huge flats, it was made out of a steel VG10 that, as I say, it rolls if you look at it sternly. So it just was a knife I never liked, and because it was saber ground with so much material in this portion of the blade, it was very blade heavy. I didn't find it had good balance, and it wasn't very quick in action. So I don't know, a few years ago, 2012ish maybe, Spyderco started releasing Enduras and Delicas full flat ground, so much thinner in profile. The blade's so much lighter. Perfectly balanced. Let's see if I can illustrate that for you. Perfectly balanced blade. If anything, a little bit handle heavy, which makes a blade feel light in hand. And now what a great slicer. The inclusive angle of the main bevel is like 4 degrees. The inclusive angle of the main bevel, the faces of the blade, maybe 5 degrees, but really, really shallow angle. And you know, they take a 15-degree secondary bevel beautifully. Great slicer, great all-purpose knife. Love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, a midlock Seki City Spyderco with FRN handles, and I love it. Number 3 most carried modern folder of 2015 for me. I'm telling you what, guys, who saw that one coming? I sure didn't. If I would have made a list over the last couple of years, there would have been a Spyderco Paramilitary 2 on that list. I carry this more than the P2. Yeah, believe it or not, I carry this more than the Paramilitary 2. Number 2. Then the number 2 and number 1 are not going to surprise anybody. Number 2, Benchmade 940 dash nothing. Benchmade 940. Green aircraft grade aluminum handles, hard green anodized. Purple titanium backspacer. Blade modified reverse tanto, fashioned of CPM S30 focus camera, S30V. Not a -1 carbon fiber, not a -1501 M390 with blue and black G10, just an old green Benchmade 940. And I got my first chip in the handle this year. Look at that. How did I do it? I think I dropped it getting out of the car. Right here. How on earth? Oh. Rocking the Parkerized split arrow clip, of course. As I've said, I think the 940 is the best modern interpretation of the pocket knife, known to man. It is so good in hand at 2.7 or 2.9 ounces with a almost, like 3 3/8 inch cutting edge, 3 7/16 inch blade. Just gobs of cutting performance. Super light, super good in hand. It's just never going off my list. It's never going to go off my list. It's a Hall of Fame, unbelievable knife. Having said that, 940s have their problems. This one is perfect. It's perfect. But you're going to see some 940s where the blade is not this broad because the sharpener at the factory couldn't get it right, and they left you with no choil for resharpening and a really thick blade. You're going to see tips that are all jacked up, sharpened off center, asymmetrical. You're going to see knives that don't center in the handle properly. You're going to see wild variation in the color of the green handles and in the finish on the blades. Don't ask me why. I'm not sure, guys, that I would buy a 940 unless I saw some really good pictures online of a specific knife, or if I was buying one in a brick and mortar store and I could actually put my hands and eyes on the knife that I'm going to buy. It is one of my favorite knives of all time, but they are not perfect and they have some variability. So you need to know about the Benchmade 940 that you're buying before you buy it. This one has a story. There were some things about it when I bought it that weren't right from Benchmade, and then there were some things I screwed up on this knife. So it's been back to Oregon City for some warranty work, and then some work I paid to have done because of my own stupidity. But that's it. Number 2, most carried modern folder 2015, Benchmade 940. Oh, by the way, This is a one-of-a-kind Apostle P940, if you didn't notice. Number 1. Boy, this is going to be a big surprise, isn't it? Not really. There it is. Reeve, Sebenza 21 large size clip point blade with micarta inlays. Again, much like the GEC number 77 Barlow, I could have grabbed any of my large Sebenzas for this video. I have several. I have a plain Jane blue hardware, no inlay Sebenza, large clip. I have 2 large micarta inlaid, this clip and an Insingo, and then I have my box elder burl inlaid clip Sebenza, and then I've got a small Insingo inlaid micarta. The small would have been on my list last year, the small Insingo micarta inlaid. I didn't carry it as much this year. It seems like my hand is preferring the large 21. And this, I think, is the most carried of my Reeve knives. I love the micarta inlays, the way they just feel warm and secure in the hand. They give an overall more round feel to the handle package in hand. It just makes the knife more comfortable to have them. On the large knife, yes, but on the small knife, much more so. And like all my Sebenzas, they are all free droppers that deploy like they're on bearings. And they all have 0 side play, 0 up and down play. On phosphor bronze washers with the amazing Reeve bushing pivot system. That completes my list. Before I sign off and wish you guys a happy new year, just a note. I was watching a Nut and Fancy video last week, and he was talking about his TNP gear checks that he likes to do when he meets guys that are followers of the Nut and Fancy project out in public, you know, at gun stores and the like. And you know, he gear checks them. He sees what they're carrying. Make sure that they're doing their part, so to speak. And one thing that he finds is that they don't always have guns on them. Interesting, huh? Another thing that he finds is that if they do have a knife, the doggone thing's dull. It's either been poorly sharpened by them, or they've had it for 2 years and it's still got the factory edge. It's all hacked up and won't cut anything. And he makes a valid point, doesn't he? Why would you leave the house with a knife that won't cut anything? Because you want to look cool? Because you got a knife? Guys, keep your edges sharp, would you please? And if that's a chore for you that you don't want to undertake or that you don't feel comfortable doing, feel free to send them to me. There is a video linked at the beginning of this video that is the link is to my sharpening service video. All the details about how to utilize my service are in the description of that video. And for the month of January 2016, if you ship on or before January 31st, knives to me, you can get free shipping. If you ship 2 or more knives in a small flat rate box, or 5 or more knives in a medium or large flat rate box, you don't have to ship it in those, but if I can ship them back that way, your shipping will be free for the month of January. So, get those Christmas presents out, get them in the mail, and let's get some good, proper edges on them, shall we? Well, grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Those are my 2015 most carried knives of the year. And remember, the word is sharp.